Okay, looks like we're live. Hi, and welcome to QFX's panel on expanding representation in web series. I'm here with Hillary, the creator of Passage. Wave, Hillary. Aryka, the creator of 30. Wave, Aryka. Cory, the director and writer of The Fortnight. Cory, wave. Gretchen, the creator and writer of These Thems. You go wave. And Amber, the producer of BIFL the series. Wave, Amber. Hi. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Great, how are you?
I'm good. Let's see. To start things off, I wanted to do an icebreaker. Something just to loosen us up, make it a little easier, because I don't know about you. I'm a little nervous. So, if your life had a theme song, what would it be? I thought about this for a while. I think like Demons by Hayley Kiyoko would be my song. Yeah, if you don't have one now, you could just like do one later, maybe at the end of it if you have it. What do you think?
I just keep having like the Trolls soundtrack because it's all my son is currently listening to. So I have the there's like one it's like Don't Slack or something. It's actually pretty catchy. Yeah. But I just keep going to that for right now. So I'm gonna go with that. It's like
okay.
Don't Slack from the Trolls soundtrack.
What about you, Amber? You look like you've got like something on the tip of your tongue.
Well, I've been really listening to Hayley Williams' new solo album like all the time.
So good. It's so good.
Any of those songs is fine.
Okay. And what about you, Aryka?
So mine would actually probably be Smack My Bitch Up by Prodigy, which is very random. It makes me feel very empowered. So yeah.
It takes me back. Takes me back.
What about you, Cory?
I would say there's a song by Blink-182 called Damn It, and I feel like that's always been the It worked at 16 and it still works. So
it still works.
You know, yeah.
What about you, Gretchen?
Lately, Ironic by Alanis Morissette.
Hey. And like before we go, diving into this panel, can you tell us a little bit about the photo behind you? What kind of food is going on there?
Yes, as everybody on this panel knows, I just spent 20 minutes trying to get my Zoom to work on my computer and couldn't. So this was my lunch about 3 weeks ago, and I don't know how to take it. But I made myself a little meze plate with some farmers market hummus and grape leaves and olives and tabbouleh. It was bomb. So anyway,
hey. No, it just sounds delicious.
it looks it too. Anyway, hope you all aren't hungry.
And I am hungry.
Right?
So I was wondering if we could go around and give a quick pitch of your series for people that haven't watched it yet and are experiencing it for the first time. I want to start with Hillary.
Put me on the spot. It's about a secret agent who has a special kind of power. And there's a lot of mythology involved and secret organizations and a pact with an ancient spirit, we'll call them. So it's very much a fun sci-fi fantasy genre series, and it involves a queer mom. So it was fun to move.
Hey. What about you, Amber?
So BIFL is basically, what I kind of like to say is the queer version of Friends, but just less problematic.
I love it. What about you, Cory?
The Fortnight is about a girl in her early 30s who has a writer's block, and so she takes some time and goes to a cabin for 2 weeks and inadvertently ends up rooming with a girl who broke her heart 10 years ago. And so they're trapped in this cabin because there's like storms and mudslides, and so it's about them kind of figuring out what went wrong and how do they feel now. And it involves a great group of friends who are all really diverse. There's a queer mom, there's a trans non-binary identifying person. yeah, it's just it's a good mix of people I see in the real world.
That's fantastic. And what about you, Gretchen?
These Thems is about 4 queer friends in New York City, and it follows Gretchen, who's also played by me, and she's a newly out queer femme trying to navigate the LGBT community and befriends Vera, who is a non-binary queer educator. Their best friend is trans, and deciding on whether or not to come out at work, and also navigating a new relationship with a cis gay guy. So also I kind of pitch it as like kind of like a queer friends
Without the problems.
Yeah. I mean, there's
Yeah.
problems, but
Now I'm looking at Friends and thinking about all the problems.
Yeah.
And what
It's up
about
to
you,
us to do
Aryka?
better.
So 30 is obviously about people in their 30s, but it more or less follows a trio of friends in Houston who are queer, who are trying to navigate life after what I like to refer to as a quarter life crisis. So it's kind of dealing with like one of the characters wants a different career path. Another one is going through divorce. She's she's been married since college and she's gotten to her 30s and decided her husband gets on her nerves. And then you have like the one whose dating life just sucks. So just, typical quarter life crisis stuff that
I really like that. I've never thought of my life as like having a quarter life crisis.
it is. It's this weird,
True.
like I think, well, it happened so fast from the pilot to the end. I was 30 when I first started. I'm 34 now, but I feel like when people turn 30, like everybody has like this weird sense of urgency, like, oh my God, I'm like an adult now and my life is in shambles, so I have to fix this. So yeah.
I'm gonna turn 30 in a couple months. Oh no.
Get ready. It's coming.
It's coming for you.
Heard it here first.
Turning 36 on Saturday, so
Hey!
Yeah. Happy early birthday.
Happy early birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday.
Now I want to ask a question that any of you guys can pop in and talk about. And, it's representation means something different for everyone. What does it mean for you, especially creating these series? Whoever wants to pop up, you're welcome. Or if you want, I could just keep calling people if that makes it easier.
Sure.
That's good.
keep calling people. Not me.
Okay, Cory, tell us a little bit about what it means to you.
For me, it's about finally seeing the world that I've been living in on screen, because I've always felt a disconnect I'm always scrambling to identify with something in a show or a movie, and I'm always thinking, but it would be better if this were like this, or if their friends looked like my actual friends. Where's the diversity? I need more. So for me, representation just meant I'm going to show how I've really been living and the things that I experienced that I haven't seen yet, that I feel we're missing.
Oh, that's perfect. And what about you, Gretchen?
Yeah. I mean, the whole reason why I wrote the show was because as an actor, I consider myself an actor first, and I just wasn't seeing any storylines for me, and how I identify as a queer femme. So a queer femme with lesbian tendencies. But yeah, someone who dates people who are on the more Mask of Center side of things. I've certainly dated people who are non-binary and trans identifying. And so, yeah, there wasn't like a story of just like a coming out story, certainly, but also just a human story of through a femme's perspective in that way. And it was important to me when writing these other characters. When I first started writing these thems, it was just a series of sketches from like a femme's point of view. And then as I continued writing, the characters just kind of developed and more and more and more. And yeah, it was really important to me to have my characters' friend circle on the show reflect my actual friend circle in real life. And I think, that really is what the queer community is and is becoming more of. A lot of a lot of different types of queerness. And so, yeah, it's important to me.
Thank you. And what about you, Aryka?
Yeah, kind of the same. Definitely wanted to show my friend circle and diversity. I think as queer people, it's cool we get to experience being around everybody, because we all come from different backgrounds and things like that. But I also really wanted to showcase the queer life in Houston, because I feel like people don't think there's any gay people in Texas, and Houston's actually pretty gay friendly. Like the location was like a big thing for me, being in Houston.
Like
I
that.
like that.
What about you, Amber?
For me, I think one of the biggest reasons is just, we need more representation, absolutely, but we also need more positive representation. So that's one of the big things for me. And also, I think it's just as important, if not maybe even more important, that people, yes, we get to see ourselves in these stories, but having other people see that there are different people, you know what I mean? Like different types of people, and making that, the normal, you know what I mean? Like there is no normal, but just making sure that there's so much more representation out there, just because a lot of people don't know all the different types of representation that exist, right? So
Yeah. And in a way, it's like educating people, even people that are already in the queer community, which is really interesting.
yeah, and if we have the means to do it, no one else is going to do it. Like
Yeah.
we need to, I think everyone in this room, everyone in this group chat, we have the means to some degree to make this happen, and that's why I think it's super important.
Each and every one of you have created something fantastic that is going to change the lives of people when they sit down and they experience it for the first time. It could be, I've never looked at somebody like that, or maybe that's me on screen. So that's super important. And like, I don't know you, but I'm like super proud of you.
I've never thought about it on that scale. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. It's like you probably got goosebumps and like felt seen
Yeah.
when you were watching something, maybe when you were younger, or even just a couple of years ago, and you're doing that for other people, and it's great. It's fantastic. So Hillary, you are last.
Yeah, I
What
mean,
is-
positive representation
yeah.
is definitely a thing. I mean, I literally wanted something that had a queer mom, because I'm a queer mom, and I wanted something to show that moms can be, can I cuss on here? Moms can be badass. And in a fun genre where a lot of times we see awesome, we see a lot of great, really awesome characters, but I just never really saw myself in any of them. So it was that's kind of what started it. And then obviously it got a little bigger, but definitely I think more positive representation, for sure.
And I wanted to ask, what unexpected challenges did you face when it came to creating these series, especially keeping in mind that representation was at the heart of it all? Let's see, Gretchen.
Yeah, so I don't actually talk about this a lot, but These Thems has been such an intense journey. And there were actually 2 other directors that came on board before my current director, Jet. And it was really important to me when assembling my creative team that the creative team reflect whoever was being represented on camera. And since I have 2 characters that are on the trans spectrum, it was important to me to find a trans masculine director. And our first director was my ex. I don't recommend that. So
Takes notes.
Yeah, exactly. Let me write this down.
All right.
So we decided pretty early on. I was like, I'm gonna need to find somebody else. And so it also makes the show even gayer, I think. And so I was like, oh, I also had I have a musical theater background. I don't have a filmmaking background. So I was like, fuck, where am I going to find a director who identifies as transmasculine? Turns out there's tons. You just have to search for them. So yeah, found a second director, and then we ended up having to push the dates back due to extenuating circumstances, and he wasn't available either. So then finally, and I was like, oh, this just isn't gonna happen. And then finally, GodX blessed us with Jet, who is an LA-based director, even though we shot in New York, and he ended up being perfect for the project. But that was certainly unexpected. And also, I think it's a good case study for anyone who is like, oh, there's not enough of this certain type of person to fill this role. It's like, no, there is. And I can actually give you a list of 8 other people who I, talked with and are available to direct your next project. So, but that was certainly unexpected. And like, I just encourage anybody who experiences crazy ass difficulties, to keep it moving.
I really like your take on that, because I have seen a lot of times where when it comes to diversity, they're like, oh, there's no specific group of this person. And you're like, if you put a Twitter shout out, you will get tons of recommendations, like guaranteed, because they're out there,
Yep.
I was going to ask you, Aryka, what challenges have you faced?
So most of my challenges revolved around time and money.
I feel you.
We
Yeah.
crowdfunded and got half of the budget that we needed. So we just did 4 episodes instead of 8. But I mean, besides that, the cast was great to work with. The pilot was kind of terrible. We lost all of our sound the first time and had to redo the whole thing.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that was horrible. But besides that, it was okay.
No big deal.
Yeah. But I really I think like any other indie filmmaker, just budget constraints. And that's really the main thing.
Okay. And what did you use to, like, if someone who is listening and wants to start, what do you use to crowdfund?
So I used Indiegogo. Originally I was going to use Seed and Spark. I really, really liked their platform. However, I just had a gut feeling that we may not get 80% because it was like a $20,000 budget. So I was like, okay. So we did the flexible budget and just kind of made it work.
Yeah.
But I think that for anybody who does want to crowdfund, the biggest thing is definitely like research, because there's a crazy methodology to it. And if you don't know, it's hard. It's hard in general, but it's like a full-time job. So,
Yeah, we crowdfunded too.
Yeah, I was like, this is terrible. Terrible idea.
What about you, Amber? Was it the same thing? Like money? That was the biggest challenge?
No, actually. I mean, so I'm not the writer of the series. So the easy part was done. But it was mostly leading up to filming, which was more of the difficult part, just because everything had been smooth sailing, pretty much the entire process, pre-production, crowdfunding, all that stuff. But when we were about a week away from filming, maybe even 4 days away from filming, and our lead had booked an audition for a primetime network, and she was like, I don't think it's going to be on our first day of shooting, so we're fine, but I'm just letting you know. And then of course it happened to be on the day that we started filming. And so leading up to that, she was kind of like, I don't know what to do, because like a project is important, but we also knew that like being on primetime television is also important. So it was a little nerve-wracking, because we read a couple more people and we had our lead. She had been our lead for like the 2 years leading up to this point. So she knew the character in and out, and everything about the cast and the other characters in the script and stuff. So that was nerve-wracking. We saw a couple people, but they just weren't her, right? They weren't the person that has been in this character's shoes for so long. So we ended up having to basically take out that day of filming. Actually, it was our second day of filming. We had to take that out and just move it to the end of our filming block.
Whoa.
And we had to make sure that crew was available, that the location was available. Everything ended up working out, but it was a good 48 hours where we were kind of in panic mode. Yeah, because I mean, the people we saw were great. They just weren't her. So, but it ended up being fine, right? Everything worked out. So, but that was definitely the big thing that happened.
Okay, what about you, Hillary?
I mean, it was definitely a struggle to get to production because, as you know, it was my first film project, and so crowdfunding, like, kind of, you know, getting thrown into the deep end kind of thing. So it was learning while you go. But similar, we actually had a location drop out 2 days before we were supposed to shoot, and it had 3 of our like major scenes. And so thankfully, I'm already here in Virginia because we shot on location in Richmond, but everyone else was out in California. And so I stayed panicked for about 48 hours. It was just trying to pull every string that I could. And then thankfully, like, it worked out, like we were able to get a backup, but it was a rough, I don't think I slept for those 48 hours before people started flying in. And then of course, not having been able to check it out, like we actually looked at it, like everyone was flying in the day before we started shooting, and I went with the director and the cinematographer to like look, but we still hadn't really figured out the setups, and because we didn't have a lot of time because they had to look at everything else. So that was probably the roughest time, but all in all, it all worked out well. But yeah, that was fun.
It seems like you have to have your hands in so many different spaces. I have no idea how you do it. No idea. And what about you, Cory?
I think it was just getting the show to the finish line. Like Gretchen said, like, because I did most of everything myself. Like I wrote, I directed, I was a cinematographer. So I was doing lighting and sound, mostly sound by myself. I did get someone for like the end of it. I did the editing and producing. So I didn't get the cabin location, our main location, until a week before my main actor was supposed to fly out here. She's from Illinois. So I took a chance on asking her to do it because she just was the character. And if she didn't do it, the show it just doesn't exist. So she was coming, and it was a week before her flight got here. And I was like, I still don't have a location. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Found the cabin, and then one of my actors dropped out while we were at the cabin. I found a trans actor, and then he emailed me 2 days before he was supposed to come, and he said, I booked a commercial and I can't get out of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to find a trans non-binary actor from here where there's no cell service? Like, what am I going to do? So I was just like sweating bullets and then trying to like keep it together to film, but then figure out where am I going to get an actor that has to be here at the cabin. This cabin's really expensive for no budget. Like, the cabin was the budget. It was just crazy stuff like that. But I kept saying, like, it's so important that we tell the story. Like, I just have to somehow get to the finish line. So that was the hardest part, just like producing on top of all my other jobs. I mean, I think that's the hardest part.
You're a lean mean machine, Cory. Like, whoa.
You know,
Yeah.
all I do is work.
All of you are. Oh my God. So, okay. And what advice do you have for creators just starting on their web series adventure? Let's see. Amber, you're first.
Let me think. I'm trying to think where I was at years ago, like when I like first started.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the most important things is trying to find your people and you know, try and go on different sets, try and, you know, PA for different things. Doing that first, and, you know, try different positions on crew and stuff, I think is really helpful, because there's a lot of people who think that they want to do one thing and then they, you know, get on set, or they, you know, try something different, and it kind of opens their eyes to what's available out there. I would say try as many positions as you can, first and foremost, and then from that's how you kind of gradually will start finding the people that you want to work with. I always find it best to work with the people that you know and trust versus trying to just, do a series, film something, edit something just because like someone's like, hey, do you want to do this? I try and do a lot of my projects with friends or people who I know other people, through references and stuff like that. It just makes it easier and more smooth. So if I could tell my younger self, it would be just be patient and, finding your people is super important.
I like the thought of that about what you would tell like yourself when you were first starting. What about you, Aryka?
Gosh, I would say to really, I guess just be open to learning and take it easy on yourself, being a new filmmaker, figuring things out and executing things and just have fun and learn a lot. And then once you decide you really want to stick with it, then you can get more serious or you can not, but just have fun and learn. Take everything as a learning experience.
Yeah, because it's a labor of love.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I think, sorry, just to jump on what you just said, Aryka, I think being open is super key because there's a lot of kids that come out of school and they're just like, I know everything.
Oh, shit.
You know nothing.
Oh, you don't.
I'm like, you think you know, you have no idea.
Trust me, what I learned in film school is so different from what actually happens. And I was like, you don't know anything. I know nothing.
Yeah.
What about you, Gretchen?
Oh, Lord. Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with everything that's been said. Definitely echo, find your people, find the people that believe in your vision and that you trust. And I would say, like, if first of all, honestly, if I could go back and look at myself almost 4 years ago at this point, I would just be like, girl, don't even worry about it. It's okay. You can go be a librarian. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Like you'll find happiness. I feel like I guess, but if you're, crazy enough to jump into something, I would say, like be gentle on yourself, start smaller, and and like make sure you find things that keep you sane outside of, like, don't make this your entire life.
Okay. What about you, Hillary?
I can only really echo what everyone is saying because that's honestly,
okay.
like, I was
Go
thinking
for
about
it.
it while we're talking here, because I think definitely being kind to yourself, because I think because when I first started doing this and started like going through the process, like I remember going like, this is just like like I keep messing up, I keep making mistakes, like I'm doing this backwards, and I was very thankful that I was able to start meeting people through this and finding my tribe, if you will, and having them go like, it's okay, like, just that continued support. And so it's kind of branches off so that it's all of that kind of combined, right? Is that you can make the mistakes, make sure you have the people who are going to support you through them, and that you yourself know to get up and keep going. And yeah.
That's perfect. And Cory?
I would say I agree with all of you. And I would say don't be afraid to ask questions, because I PA'd on a lot of different sets, and my stipulation was like, I'll work for you for free, but can I ask you all the questions in the world about how you made your project? Because I don't have a clue about how to get there. So I think it was super important to be able to ask those questions. People are willing to to say how they did it, because it's so hard that you're like, yeah, I want to tell everyone how I did it because it's so difficult to get there. But I think also you just have to understand that it might be terrifying to like take the leap, but you at some point you just have to do it. I got to a point where I was so comfortable working on everyone else's projects, but it was just like it's getting like night terrors thinking about putting out something of my own. But I was like, what's the difference between what I'm doing for them and what I want to do on my own? It's just I'm scared to take the leap, and at one point you just have to do it. So just know, like, it's going to be scary, but it's worth it. And if you make mistakes, you're going to learn from them. There's not a mistake I've made that I haven't learned from and not made again, because I just ask the questions, make the mistakes, and take the leap.
I like
Can I
that.
add
Take the leap.
to Cory's really quickly? Because I actually think, Cory, you hit the nail on the head too, is that as independent filmmakers, we are always looking for people to come and help us and
Exactly.
support, especially on like sets when we need those random people to help. And so I think, I mean, I would, for one, of like, if there are people on set who are like, I want to ask you, like, can I have an hour of your time to ask you a bunch of questions and I'll come on set and help out? Yes.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, don't be afraid to ask exactly that. Like, there are a ton
Otherwise you're never going to know, and
Yeah,
you're just going to
exactly.
be wondering, and there's so much great content that we could be missing out on because you're just afraid to take that step.
I really like that because people are afraid. Like I've been thinking about something possibly to write, and then it's just jumping. Jumping is the hardest thing.
Mm.
And I was gonna ask what, like, because each of your works are transformative. Each of your works have great representation. How has like the fan reaction been for it? Like, yeah, Cory, first
On
you.
the bus, Cory.
Cory, that
Yeah,
laugh.
Cory.
I need to know what that meant.
All of us know
Someone
what it
got
is.
The Fortnighters are just like raging right now.
Yeah.
We have a great fandom. They're called the Fortnighters, and they're ride or die. Like, they're with us to the end. They're very vocal about how much they love the show, why it's important, why they love the representation that we're showing, and how they haven't seen anything like it before, and it means the world to them. And they'll tell anyone and everyone, and it's huge on Twitter. Everyone's always tweeting about Fortnite and Fortnighters, and I've always said to them, like, just trust me, with what I'm doing with the story. If you're on the bus with me, you got to trust me, and if you don't trust me, then you can get off the bus. So on the bus is a big thing for the Fortnighters. They're just there through and through, and they're amazing.
And for anyone that's like watching right now has never watched it, where can they catch it?
YouTube.
Okay.
It is free to stream.
Okay, perfect. What about you, Amber?
Our fans, they're so funny. Well, they're funny just because they all, dislike the same characters, so they're all like jumping on the same "I hate you" train. They're also trying to constantly figure out what the name of our show means, which has always been probably my favorite thing, because we get people guessing left and right. I'll just randomly have messages, and it's like, does it mean this? Does it mean that?
Oh yeah, I had to look it up on Urban Dictionary. I was like, what does this mean?
It does not mean that.
There you go. No.
It does
It was
not mean that.
innocent. Trust me, what I popped up was innocent. But yeah.
Whatever it was. So in terms of their reactions and stuff, it's been really rewarding for me specifically. I'm not going to speak for the rest of the team, but I'm sure they feel the same way. I think the biggest thing is that it's been really rewarding because I've said this a couple times recently. Actually, this has come up kind of in similar conversation. I have an editing background first, so being an editor, and I've always grown up wanting to help people, just didn't know how that would translate into my everyday job as an editor. And so when I transitioned into producing, and did BIFL, screening it at I believe it was Klexicon in last year. Let's say in 2019. That was last year.
It feels so long ago, but it
I
was
know.
just last year.
It really does.
When we screened there, we had a couple people come up to us afterwards, and some of them had tears in their eyes. Some of them, just asked if they could give us hugs, thanking us for the series, and they had only watched 3 episodes. And so I think it clicked for me in that moment that was why I wanted to do what I do. You know what I mean? And continue to do, creating content as much as I can. And so I think that's been the most rewarding, and that's been amazing to see with the fans. And I really enjoy when they interact with our cast, because our cast are very interactive with them, which is really cool. And I think a lot of, higher profile series don't do that as often. So that's been like a really fun thing to also watch, just like behind the scenes,
Yeah, all the interactions, because they want to connect with you. They want to be like, I'm having all these feelings. I want to share it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Aryka?
So the people that have kind of been on board with 30, I think because it started as a pilot and they watched us crowdfund to do the series, they're really were interested in the production. And everybody kind of related to individual characters. So I get feedback on people from individual characters. Kind of piggyback off of what Amber said, I went to a film festival. It was the Black LGBT Film Festival in Atlanta. And they screened it to a viewership. It was like all gay men, and they loved it. So that was very bizarre to me because that was not my target audience. And I was just like, oh. But as I notice now, a lot of people that comment on YouTube are men, gay men. So it's odd, but yeah, I guess people in general kind of have just enjoyed the production aspect of it and watching it come into fruition. And then everybody's like, oh, well, I'm like Sony, or I'm like Carmen, and they all just kind of relate to an individual character.
That's really cool. Because, I mean, you sat down and you helped in the creation of these characters, and here they are. That's like compliment of the highest order. What about you, Gretchen?
The fans, so it is really a really cool experience to have it out in the world, because people are constantly messaging, and I feel like the people who find the show really do love it, and people are telling friends and whatnot. And I feel like there's a lot of intensity behind people's outreach. There's a lot of like, hey, wow, I've never seen myself on camera before. Thank you so much. Or there's been actually a few people now reaching out saying, like, younger, specifically like trans or gender nonconforming youth, saying they were like suicidal, and someone recommended to watch this show. And those ones, like, I've certainly cried from hearing messages before, just being like, damn, like, people just really needed to see a win for a trans masked guy today. Like, people really needed to see a win for, someone coming out later in life, all of these things. So it's not been like the overwhelming fandom. Like, there's no tattoos yet, I don't think.
Is that your goal? That's the goal.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's interesting too, because it's, but and also I do love that since we do feature so many different gender identities on the show, that also is reflected in the fan base too. So yeah.
I feel called out, Gretchen.
Cory, I'm talking about my Fortnight tattoo. Okay.
Send me a photo, okay? I'll retweet it.
It makes me wonder, do your Fortniters have tattoos for you?
Yeah, we actually, they did a parody video, so someone got a fake one, but then everybody was talking about it, like, oh, I was planning on getting one when the tattoo shops reopen. And so we have someone, Pam, shout out, who already has a Fortnite tattoo. So
That's
it's
so
a thing.
crazy and
Everyone's
so
getting on the
cool.
bus. Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah.
Can you tweet Pam when we're done?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I will.
tell everyone
I
to see
will.
it.
Like we want to see it.
I bet Pam is probably watching right now. Is my
Probably.
guess.
Hey, Pam.
Probably.
Hi, Pam.
A whole group of them are watching, so she might be in there.
Aw. Yeah, what about you, Hillary?
So we've gotten a lot of messages, but more about they want to know about the mythology, and they have like all those kind of conspiracy questions, and so it's a little bit
Really?
different.
Yeah.
Because with the we have characters like Janus and Jupiter, and they want to know more, which is great. That's why I love genre. So I always joke that like while the genre fans are few, they are mighty. And that definitely is Passage, and I love being able to interact with people who have questions and stuff like that. And same sort of thing on seeing the actors like really get involved and talk with them, and we call adorkable is one of the ages. So it kind of ebbs and flows, but it's been more on the like, I want to know what's like I want to know what's next, like what's behind this, like what does this mean? They try to find like conspiracy theories.
Really?
I can see that.
That's really, really cool because it's like when someone writes fan fiction for something, I don't see it as them like taking your work. It seems like the highest compliment. I love your work. I'm gonna write some fan fiction about it. I keep on looking at Cory and I'm like, Cory, have they written fan fiction?
They've talked about it. They're all like debating, should we wait till the end of the season to start it? And I was like, come on, just write it now. I want to see. But yeah, I think they wanted to like see the whole season to see where the characters went and where I kind of left it. And they also didn't know if there was going to be more or if it would just be one season. Spoiler alert, it's going to be 3 seasons.
Yes.
They know that. So yeah, they were kind of waiting to do their fan fiction, but hopefully.
Yeah, and I asked you, Cory, and I didn't ask everyone else about where people could watch the series. So can we start with Amber, where people could watch the series at?
You can watch BIFL on Reverie TV.
Okay. Aryka?
You can watch it on YouTube or Amazon Prime or Lesflix.
Okay. Gretchen? I'm like, Amazon Prime.
I'm laughing at Amazon Prime.
Amazon sucks. Don't
go in there.
It's like it sounds good, but it's just a
not.
pain.
It's not. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Is it really? I want to hear more about your experience after this.
Okay. No problem. I'll give you the rundown.
So yeah, you can watch individual episodes on YouTube, but can I do a little plug real quick?
Go for it.
I mean, it's little. It's not a big deal. It's fine. On Monday, we're having a watch party sponsored by New York Pride and the LGBTQ task force, and so we're doing a full string out, and that'll be on Vimeo.
Awesome.
So we're gonna try and like expand that, but yeah.
Love it. What about you, Hillary?
So Passage you can find on Real Women's Network, Lesflix, and then we are actually launching on a new streaming platform called Fearless on Friday.
Nice.
So that'll be fun.
Okay.
Whole new
And
group.
what about the future of your series? Like have you guys been already in the works for what comes next? I know Cory has up to season 3. Like, how has it been for you guys, like preparing for the future of your series for more? Let's see. Gretchen, you go first.
Y'all, this almost killed me. Like I don't know if there is. I mean, right now, so something that is really being discussed a lot right now, which is super important, is specifically trans representation. And there's a new documentary out called Disclosure, and everyone should watch it.
Yeah.
It's so
Go
good.
watch it.
It's incredible. And so there's a lot of talk right now, and I'm in my feels a little bit, but it's okay. But yeah, so something I've always said about these thems is that if there's a season 2, then I want a writer's room, because there's only so much I can do, especially as a cisgendered white femme. and someone who wrote characters who are trans and then ended up casting people who are people of color. And so it's really important to me, like, if there's a future, hopefully there's a future for the show. And if there is, then it's really important to me to have a writer's room like assembled and helping to create these narratives moving forward. Yeah, so right now I'm literally like, I'm making this final push for Pride, and then I'm just gonna log off all social media for a month and just like fall into a deep, deep sleep. And then try and sell it, and we'll see. I don't know how that world is either, but yeah, so if there's a future, then it will only happen because there's going to be like a writer's room that's helping create the narratives from here on out.
Love it. And what about you, Aryka?
Okay, so that's funny that Gretchen mentioned that. So my trajectory personally as a filmmaker has changed quite a bit in learning the functions of things. That I've always been a screenwriter, but produce things on my own because I just don't want my writing to go to die wherever. So I'm actually in the process of trying to obtain a literary film manager for screenwriting to get in some different writers' rooms for network. So I don't know that there will be, hopefully I can do another little round of crowdfunding for 30 and just complete it, because I just would like to complete it, especially for the viewers that are pissy about there only being 4 episodes. They're like, so you've updated Instagram today, like, so where's the other 4? And I'm like, I need $10,000 more, God. So, but for me, I think my personal trajectory has changed. I'm very, very focused on just screenwriting. So I don't know, we'll see.
What about you, Amber?
So yeah, no, there's definitely more story for us to tell. I mean, one of the things that came out of quarantine is that we are currently, outlining season 2 and starting to write some stuff. There are the fans who constantly, like you were saying, Aryka, are messaging or commenting, and they're like, cool, so when's season 2? Like, something.
Yep.
We have a BIFL panel tomorrow morning, and I was asking, our followers if they have any questions. And on Instagram, there were a couple people who were like, when's season 2? That was the question, which is a valid question. But I also, there's people that don't know how long things take, or they think that we've already filmed all of our series and we're just waiting.
You're just holding on to it.
Yeah. No, we may or may not crowdfund. We're still trying to figure that out, just because of quarantine and making sure that people have money from jobs, and especially those who aren't working and stuff. We can't do that. At least not right now. I mean, I think we're gonna try and figure out some sponsorship stuff and just kind of see where that goes. But there is more story to tell. So, like, I can probably say that we're going to do more. It's just a matter of when.
Okay. And what about you, Cory?
Yeah, the world that I created with Fortnight is such a deep and complex world. So there's so much to explore with the characters' backstories, and then where we're going in the future. So I always wanted to make 3 seasons, but it was just a matter of, is there an interest? Do people want to see this? Well, it turns out they do. So that's going to happen. All of the actors have signed on to come back. I mean, after we posted our final episode of season 1, people were like, okay, when's the next episode? I'm like, okay, well, we're all caught up and we're all in quarantine. So whenever we can kind of get back to some sense of normalcy, then we can talk about that. But I had to take a break because I was editing weekly, putting out episodes for 16 weeks.
Whoa.
So I had to take a break, like a good break.
Well,
I'm still
deserved.
releasing some bloopers for season 1, but I think coming up pretty soon I'll start writing season 2. I mean, I know the story and where it's going. It's just a matter of putting it on paper, but yeah, so that's a set thing that's happening.
Okay. And what about you, Hillary?
So I actually have 5 seasons outlined and 3 of them written.
Yeah.
So I still have like 2 seasons actually written. It's just been waiting to see kind of what happens with this. And we talked about doing the same sort of thing. Like everyone's like, when's the next season? Because we had a bit of a cliffhanger. A little risky when you're in genre. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to do season 2 once everything calms down. We'll figure out sort of the next process. But the hope is to do all 5. However, I think specifically with the stories that are happening and the stuff that I know that I'm like wanting to really tell, at least do 3. Thankfully, Cory and I can just like rest and be like, hey, I have the rest of it done if we just want to do it all.
Whoa. I can't believe 5 seasons and you already got up to 3 already. That's pretty badass. All of you are pretty badass. And we have 2 minutes left. Is there anything that you'd like to tell fans? Just drop them a line. Like, where can they find you? Let's do that. Where can they find you? Anybody? Aryka?
I am on Twitter and Instagram's Aryka P Productions.
Okay.
And my name is spelled ARYKA.
Okay. What about you, Gretchen?
Yeah, follow the show, please, on Instagram and Twitter, these_thems, and I'm Gretchen Wylder, also with a Y.
Okay.
Aryka.
What about you, Hillary?
You can find me on Twitter at Esquina, and then Twitter and Instagram for Passage. And so it's Passage the series on Instagram and Passage_series on Twitter.
And Amber?
On Instagram and Twitter for my personal is Amber Rivera. And then for BIFL, Instagram is BIFL the series, and then Twitter is BIFL series.
And Cory?
For Fortnight on Twitter, it is Fortnight Web. And I am Cory X182. And then on Instagram, it's Fortnight series. And then I'm CX182.
Okay. So that's it for QFX's panel on expanding representation in web series. I wanted to thank everyone for participating today and for watching us talk about something really important to us. Make sure to stick around because the QFX Artist Alley Happy Hour is coming right up. I wanted to say stay safe and just have a good day. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.